Hello everyone, I'm Casper Kuma, and welcome back to It Gets So Lonely here. Now, if you remember last time, we were stuck with that gravedigger, and we're still on the run from somebody in the forest. I don't remember if we just, like, reversed time to get here. I mean, I guess we must have, because otherwise we'd be dead. So, I don't know, let's go to the castle, I think. Because that sounds nice. I don't know. Sounds better than whatever happened last time with the whole abandoned town. Maybe there'll be, like, stuff here. Good idea. All decent fairy tales tend to conclude in castles once their beleaguered, put-upon heroines are finally able to wed the handsome princes they once dreamed of. I don't think there's going to be any princes in this game. I think it's more princesses. Why bother trying your luck with the shore, which may very well be deserted, or the village, which will be full of dirty, barefoot peasants? Well, that's kind of rude, but I mean, I guess they were dirty. they were buried, so I guess that counts, right? It is far better to skip the suffering and go straight to the grand finale. That is very astute of you. I did not realize you had it in you to be so mercenary. I can only wonder what you will uncover during your moonlight meanderings. The night is far from over, and your adventures are only just beginning. I hope only that you have brushed up on your curtsies. They might come in handy when one is interacting with the sovereign. Royals can be temperamental, after all. If you fail to treat them with the prerequisite amount of respect, you might come to regret it. Oh, is that a warning? You follow the path that leads to the castle, supporting yourself on weary, aching legs which feel ready at a moment's notice to detach from your hips. You're a little more than a wisp of a girl, but you've been running for so very long and your feet are so very numb you feel like a great lumbering thing, clumsy and ungainly. The soles of your feet are screaming at you. You need to lie down, and quickly. You only hope, as you continue to run, that you'll find a spare room available for you in the castle. You do not know what exactly will await you at the castle, but you have visions as you run of vast, opulent dwelling. This dwelling will surely be full of finely furnished rooms in which you might rest your weary head. There must also be a king and a queen inside this castle, you ponder, who will be wise and kind, and what of their children? What of the princess? Every good castle must possess a princess who will take pity on you and your plight. You can imagine the face of this generous princess with ease, thanks to the fairy tales you read in abundance as a small child. The princess will be fair of hair and blue of eye, with soft pink lips pursed like rosebuds. Her limbs will be slender, her hands dainty and unsullied from physical labor, and her sensibilities will be sweeter than marzipan. She'll be kind to you and compassionate, just like an older sister. You do not know what older sisters are like, though, or younger sisters for that matter. You're only guessing. You're not a complete fool, however, despite your tendency to daydream, and you do have a few reservations. Monarchs do not, as you know from voracious reading, have the best track record when it comes to caring for the peasantry. Was there not a very famous queen who once said, with a cavalier wave of her hand, that the hungry peasants in her kingdom should content themselves with cake if bread was not an option? I heard that that was just completely made up. She never actually said let them eat cake at all. You think that this might be a misquote. Ah, yeah. But the point still stands. The royals are supposed to grant their subjects succor in their time of need. This does not always happen. In fact, it very rarely happens. Kings and queens and princes are just people at the end of the day, and they are subject to the same caprices as that all humans are. They can also be careless and selfish and inconsiderate. There's no guarantee that this mythical princess of your imagination will help you. Why, there's no guarantee that this mythical princess exists at all. Still, you must try. It is this hope which keeps you going. I have a feeling we're gonna get thrown in a dungeon. You continue to run to the castle. It takes some time before you finally emerge from the woods, but finally, you do it. How much time, you ask? I cannot answer that. Did I not say that time had begun to lose all of its meaning? The forest is behind you now, at least, and all the awful nightmares which dwelt within it. It is still cold, though, and foggy and very, very dark. The sun has yet to rise. You can see the moon more clearly now, though, as it hangs above your head, round as any pearl or orb or crystal ball. The moonlight shines down upon the castle, which looms in front of you like a cliffside. The stone edifice of the building is imposing, and it drowns you into shadows darker than the depths of the deepest ocean. The castle is not all dark, though, not like the night sky above it. When you crane your head, you can see that there are lights flickering within, in the narrow, slitted windows. It would appear that somebody is home. The king and the queen, perhaps? What of their servants? What, perhaps, more pressingly, of their guards? You half expect, as you stand there, that armored knights will accost you for daring to approach the castle of the king and queen so and so. Do you not know your place, foolish peasant girl with dirty skirt? Begone with you! You are not, of course, a peasant. Your family's a wealthy one, or rather they were, before your father made a series of poor financial decisions. You do not look like a young lady right now, though, with your dirty face and your dirty skirt, which is torn at the hem. If any guards were to take you for a vagrant, it would not be surprising. But though you stand there dithering, your filthy fingers hooked in the front of your filthy skirt, you do not hear any cries. Nobody sounds the alarm. Lights might be on inside the castle, but there's nobody outside of its perimeter standing sentry. There's nobody to impede your entry, and the elaborate iron gates which are set into the vast stone walls about the castle's exterior are open just a crack. It would be a trivial matter to slip inside. There is nobody to stop you. Why are you trembling now, you silly thing? You have come so very far, it would be an act of foolishness to turn around now. Go on, go! You inhale. Perhaps in an attempt to screw up your courage, which has at long last begun to fail you. And then you step forwards. You slide between the wrought iron gates as stealthily and as secretive as a thief, then cross the path which leads up to the tall, imposing structure. The domed doorway which leads into the castle itself, hewn from stone, is closed, but at the push of your palm it springs inwards. The door creaks alarmingly as it opens, a sound loud enough to split the silence like a thunderclap. You inhale at this and glance around, your eyes darting hither and thither. Thither? If there are any guards posted about the castle's grounds, they should have been alerted by that sound. Will they come for you at long last? What will happen should they catch you? Will they throw you into the dungeons? It does not sound like a pleasant way to spend the night. At least you would have a roof over your head, though, and you would not have to keep walking. And I mean, we'd also be safe from anything that's chasing us, because they like lock the bars, right? So I don't know, I'm thinking the dungeon's actually kind of safe. Just saying. Your feet really do ache. You stand there in an indeterminable amount of time, your heart pounding a panicked irregular rhythm in the base of your throat. But no matter how much time elapses, no guards come. You're thankful for your good luck, though it does not make you wonder. Or, though it does make you wonder, sorry. I don't know why I'm reading that wrong. Where is everybody? Why, it is almost as if all the people in the world have disappeared. That seems to be a common occurrence with all these locations. Did everyone die from the plague here too? I don't know. Could you be the very last human left alive? You frown, then press your palm back against the door. You push less cautiously, this time heedless of the loud sound which splits the silence. There's no point in worrying about the guards, not when they might very well be non-existent. Your entry to the castle secured, you then take a step forwards. The door swings shut behind you. The resolute slam makes you jump. You did not expect it. Your heart knocks against your ribs, and with wild eyes you glance about. You're standing in a vast entrance hall made of stone which splits off into any number of passages. At the very end of the hall, meanwhile, there's a large elaborate staircase, one which seems to extend to the heavens themselves. It is dark inside the hall, but there are numerous torches set in sconces in the stone wall which are aflame. They offer some relief from the shadows. But I mean, that also means that someone's here, right? They don't light themselves, and I'm sure that they won't be like, you couldn't light them and they'd like just stay aflame forever, so somebody's definitely in here. You can hear the faint sound of the wind outdoors as it moans against the castle's impervious walls, but you cannot hear any footsteps. You cannot hear any voices. You cannot, more importantly, hear any people. Maybe the castle's empty. If that is the case, though, then who lit these torches? It is a curious conundrum. You muster up what remains of your courage, then cry out, addressing the empty hall in a timorous voice which fails to properly fill up the space. Hello, you say, your eyes wide. Is anybody there? Your voice echoes through the vast empty hall, but is met yet again with silence. You cannot say you're too surprised, but it is somewhat disappointing. Not one to be deterred, you try again, and again, your voice growing louder and louder with each subsequent attempt. No matter how loud your voice, however, it fails to reach any ears. If anybody is here, they do not seem to be particularly sociable. That, or perhaps they simply cannot hear you. Could they be in another room? Yes, that must be it. You'll never find that pretty fairy tale princess of your imagination if you stand idle, you know? It's time to get to work. Put those legs of yours to good use. Not knowing what else to do, is there anything else you can do? You begin to explore. You examine the rooms first on the ground floor of the castle, which are similar scale to the impressive entrance hall, large and richly furnished, but utterly unoccupied. After some time of aimless meandering, encountering nobody save the ghosts of eons past memorialized on portraits on the walls, you muster the courage to ascend to the second floor. This floor too you examine, wandering through a seamlessly endless series of hallways until, at long last, you find a door which is ajar. From between the crack in the door and the jamb, you can see a flickering light. Irregular, yes, but it is light nonetheless. Could it be from a fireplace? That would suggest, then, that this room is occupied, unlike all the others. Perhaps the kindly princess you dreamed of will be awaiting you in this room. It is with a trembling hand that you press your palm against the door. You push it. Then you step inside the bedchamber which unveils itself to you. Shyly, you stand in the threshold of the chamber, much of your courage extinguished in a gasp. The bedroom itself is gorgeous. It is a chamber so luxuriant that not even the shadows can obscure the fine craft of the furniture within it, nor the rich patterns on the walls. It is the girl inhabiting the chamber, however, who truly takes your breath away. She kinda looks like Bowsette. Sitting upon the velveteen sheets of a towering four-poster is a girl in a sumptuous red gown who seems to be of a like age to you. You do not have a clear view of the girl's face. Her head is bowed, her gaze directed downwards at her lap. You can tell from her hair, however, and from her slender calves, which protrude from beneath the hem of her dress, that she is very pretty. We see her ankles and we're like, yes! The girl's hair is golden, and just like freshly cut wheat, but it is red of her dress which truly captures your attention. She's so striking you cannot look away from her. Oh god, what the hell is that? That's a deal breaker. Whatever the fuck that is, that's a no. The girl is not alone in her chamber either. She has a companion, though this companion is not half so endearing as she. Yeah, no, that's creepy as hell. We entered into a different art style for this freaking thing. In her lap, perched upon her velvet skirt, is a doll. The doll's hair, like that of her mistress, is golden, though much of it is hidden beneath the bonnet. The girl is adjusting the china teacup held in the doll's tiny hand, while the rim of the cup glints in the light which exudes from the fireplace. If the girl is of similar age to you, it seems strange that she would be content by herself by playing with dolls. Is she not too old for it? This girl would be more at home, you decide, at a ball. Wearing an extravagant gown, speaking with wealthy noblemen, perhaps even princes. She should not be sitting in what you presume is her bedchamber, adjusting a teacup in the doll's hand. We're pretty judgmental. She can play with dolls if she wants. It's a little weird, but you know, whatever. But you're not afforded much more time to stand there, marveling at the girl, because she turns. She raises her head. Then her eyes meet yours. You thought the girl pretty when you first observed her, sitting on the edge of her plush velveteen bed examining her doll. Now she's looking at you. Now she's looking at you, however, her face illuminated by the flames in their grate, and you can see that you were mistaken. She's not just pretty. She's beautiful, so much so it's breathtaking. She looks as though she stepped out of the pages of a picture book. She's simply too perfect to belong to this world. Perhaps she's some kind of vision, a waking dream, a hallucination? But no, she's none of those things. The doll in her lap is a cold, hard thing made of porcelain, and is unflinchingly, reassuringly real. If she were a mirage, surely she would not be able to handle physical objects such as this. It is strange, though. The doll, though immaculately made, looks oddly imperfect when compared to the girl who is holding it. She's startlingly beautiful. She even puts man-made representations of female charms to shame. The sight of her makes you feel rather weak. You always have had a fondness for fair maidens, haven't you? We are like freaking down bad for this lady. You're rather hopeless when it comes to them, even worse than the knight-errant from a courtly legend. Your aesthetic appreciation is not particularly ladylike, but, well, it's not every day a girl encounters an elegant beauty like this, attired in red, illuminated by the firelight. I suppose I can forgive you for this rudeness, as too can the girl. She does not seem to be the type to hold a grudge. Oh, the girl says, in a voice that, surprisingly enough, far less refined than her appearance. It's good to see you. I've been waiting. Has she? This is news to you. You blink, perplexed, a response on the tip of your tongue, but you are unable to expel it into the ether. The girl is setting her doll aside, then she stands, the hem of her dress swishing about her legs. Nimbly, like a ballerina, she canvasses the space between you. Her room is so very large, there's quite a lot of space, then takes your hands in her own. You must, the girl says, her eyes aglow with excitement, be my new lady's maid. It's been a while, but it's such a relief that you finally arrived. I knew that you would. You'd never leave me alone. Not when I knew you, how long I was not when you knew how long I was waiting. Oh, I'm so happy. The girl's good mood is contagious, so much so that you find yourself being swept away in it. You are tempted to accept any identity she might press upon you. You have never been a maid before, but you might not mind being this girl's maid. She does not seem like a poor mistress to serve, not if she's always this kind. You cannot mask the confusion, however, which flickers across your face. You're not good enough actress, and in any case, this is all happening too quickly. Why, you barely know this girl. Why is she being so familiar? It is with blank bovine eyes that you... bovine? Bovine eyes that you examine the girl. Look at my cow eyes. Your befuddlement is pronounced enough that even the girl, despite her good mood, notices it. She frowns. Then she says, her finger sliding away from your own. Or am I mistaken? Are you not my new lady's maid after all? The disappointment in this girl's face is abundant, so much so your heart clenches. You do not know her, she's still a stranger, but you are struck, all of a sudden, with an intense desire to appease her. You do not want to let her down. The thought is devastating. You were not aware, you tell her, that you had applied to be her maid, but if that's what she wills, you would not be opposed to it. You pray that she forgives you, though, for your discombobulation. You come from a distant country and you have traveled for many miles. You know not where you are, nor you do not know who she is. What? You don't know who I am? It is regrettable, you tell her, but no, you did not know her, though that is no fault of her own. Why, you have spent such a long time running, you hardly even know yourself. Ah, so you're a fugitive then, from another country? I see. Well, fugitive is a strong word. I don't know about that. I won't pry into your past, then, if you'd rather forget about it. I don't mind sharing my past with you, though. Everybody in this country knows who I am, after all, or at least they should. I don't think there's anyone left in this country, so I feel like that's kind of a low bar. Now this is quite the impressive boast. If it were to come from the lips of another, you'd find it unpleasantly arrogant. You do not think, however, that this girl is trying to show off. You get the feeling, instead, that she's merely telling the truth. If you don't have the pleasure of knowing me, then allow me to do the honors. My father and mother were the king and queen of this realm, and I am its princess. I've lived in this castle all my life, so I don't know much about the outside world, but I know that the other countries do exist out there. I presume it is from one of these foreign countries that you come from. It's very good to meet you. I've always wanted to talk to somebody from overseas. It feels like quite the opportunity. This girl giggles at this, and you smile in response. You tell her, unthinkingly, that it is your pleasure, really, to meet her, or at least you mean to. You only get halfway through this remark when the full gravity of what this girl has told you sinks in. You come to a stop. Then you stare. Did she just say she was a princess? Dude, where have you been? What were you thinking? Did you think she was a maid? Yes, that's right. I'm a princess, and one day I'll be a queen. After I've done a little bit of growing up. My ministers don't think I'm ready to run this country just yet, but I've been doing my best at my lessons. One day I'm sure I'll be the best queen there ever was. I don't think... Her parents are dead. Doesn't that automatically level her up or something? So she really is a princess. That makes sense, you suppose, given that she lives in a castle, but it comes as a surprise regardless. You hadn't known before you entered this chamber that you were trespassing on a lady of such great renown. Why, if she willed it, she could have executed you for your carelessness. An ugly red flush creeps up your face. A flush which is far more lurid than the princess's dress, as you look to your feet. Blech. Bashfully, you stammer out a new address. That you are very sorry for intruding upon her, and that you hope she can forgive you. Oh, it's alright. Think nothing of it. I don't mind, really. We all make mistakes. And anyway, you weren't to know. You said you weren't from around here. You nod your head in silent affirmation. It isn't a complete lie. You're really not from this country. You're not from this world, after all. What? Are we breaking the fourth wall? That's a weird thing to say. You're not from this world. How wonderful. I look forward to picking your brain later. All of my servants come from the nearby village. Their tales are all the same, and so are their superstitions. I could do with a breath of fresh air. My last lady's maid told me I was too impetuous, but I don't think anything's wrong with wanting a bit of adventure. Not that I've ever afforded much of that. I've been shut up in here for so long I hardly ever get the chance to talk to other girls my age. My last lady's maid was older than me, and so was the one before her, and the one before her. Some of the princess's fair mood seems to dissipate as she speaks, her expression turning, by degrees, into something rather more pensive. But I haven't seen any of my old lady's maids in a while, or any of the other servants for that matter. They have all disappeared. Now that is quite curious. How could a whole household full of servants simply disappear? That I don't know. This castle was full of servants once. My lady's maids and my undermaids and my scullery maids and my housekeeper and my cooks and my large retinue of retainers. They're all gone now, though. I think my ministers must have sent them away. I don't know why they would have done that, though. They didn't explain it to me. But then again, they never explained anything to me. They still treat me like a little girl. I mean, assuming that all of her servants probably lived in that village that we were in last time, they're all dead from that plague, right? That we don't know the cause of yet? I can't remember if... No, I don't think they told us what the cause of the plague was last time. Yeah. It is so tiring. She said that her ministers sent her servants away? What of her parents, the king and queen? Would they not be the ultimate authorities in the castle's hierarchy? They would, yes, if they were still alive, but they're not. They died a long time ago, and I was raised for most of my life by my servants. Oh, you answer, and then you flush. You hadn't known. It's alright, you don't need to apologize. I'm just happy that I have you now. I was getting sick and tired of only having my dolls to speak to. They aren't the best conversational partners. You can imagine so, yes. You doubt any doll, even one made by a talented artisan, with an intelligent face indistinguishable from a human's, would be very good at answering back. I feel like that's a sign. Is this a doll we're talking to? But that doesn't make any sense. I don't know. Okay. Oh no, they aren't. They're hopeless at it, really. That's so, they're so stony-lipped. You have no idea how much of a relief it is to see you. This castle is so big, and without my servants, it feels so very empty. It gets so lonely here. Ah, the name of the game. Now that's an interesting turn of phrase. It catches inside your head like a burr. Have you heard it before? You don't have much time to ponder this, however, because the princess is speaking anew, in that curiously conversational manner of hers which does not seem particularly princessy. Maybe she'll learn how to speak from her servants? That would explain why her consonants are so unrefined. Oh, but listen to me yammering on again. It's a bad habit. I really must put a stop to it. You're probably tired, dear one, from your travels. Would you like me to show you to your room? Yes, the princess announces before you can say anything to reply. I think I'll do just that. I might show you a bit around the castle first, though. It's like amazing here, and I wouldn't want you getting lost. You'll be staying here for quite some time, after all. The princess then hastens to take you on a tour of her home. Fortunately, she does not show you all the rooms in her abode, and neither does she offer an overly long description as to what the few rooms she does show you are used for. She does, however, pause by the kitchens, whereat she offers you some victuals. Once the growling in your belly has been satisfied, the princess then resumes her journey. She leads you down a dark, twisting hallway and up a series of equally long, twisting steps until she arrives at long last before a door. The princess pushes the door aside summarily, thus permitting you entrance to a small, humble bedchamber. This chamber is not half as opulent as the grand bedroom in which the princess resides, with its resplendent four-poster and its richly patterned wallpaper. This room's ceiling is not as high, and the singular bed shoved against the wall is thin and narrow. The walls are unassumingly beige, and the floor beneath your soles is of warped wood. There's a Malodor scent too, which hangs in the air, one of disuse and general decay. You get the feeling that nobody has slept in this room for quite some time. That might explain why it feels so very cold in here. Though if the princess's tour of her castle has taught you anything, is that it is cold in every room in her abode. Now here we are, the final stop of our tour. This will be your room, dear one. I hope it's to your liking. The princess, despite her exalted status, looks somewhat uneasy as she observes you, her eyes upturned like those of a loyal dog. Is she concerned about your reaction to this room? Perhaps she's afraid that you'll turn your nose up at her kindness. For a princess, she is awfully eager to please. This unexpected contrast between the princess's lofty title and her ingratiating attitude makes you smile. The room is rather scanty, yes, when it comes to its contents, but it is more than passable. It has a roof and four walls, and though it is cold, you fancy you will feel warmer once you have slipped beneath the bed's sheets. The room is not quite so fancy as your dormitory at the conservatoire, and neither is it so large, but it does have one glaring improvement over your previous lodgings. You'll not be expected to share it with anybody else. There's only one bed in this room, and this bed belongs to you. You think that the peace and quiet will do you a world of good. Bleh. You tell the princess as much, and she smiles. That's good. I was worried you wouldn't like it. I know it isn't much to look at, but it's one of your nicest servants' rooms we have in the castle. Most of the maids sleep beneath the roof in this teeny tiny room, which is all cramped. There's 10 beds up in there, and they're so close together there's barely any room to pass between them. That's kind of awful. Maybe you should have done something about it. I thought it was perfectly ghastly when I saw it the last time I went up there. Not that I was supposed to be up there. It was a rainy day, and I couldn't go outdoors, so I was doing a bit of exploring. If the housekeeper had known I'd been skulking around, I don't think she would have been best pleased. Well, in any case, nobody sleeps up there anymore. The scullery maids are all gone now. I couldn't put you up there, though, in the attic with all those empty beds. I didn't think it'd be very cheery. You're not just a scullery maid, you're my lady's maid. That means you deserve good lodgings. It'd be an insult to offer you any less than this. Now, it's getting late. You'll have to forgive me for rabbiting on. I've heard it's something I tend to do. It's a bad habit, one that's unbecoming for a lady. The housekeeper's warned me enough times. You reassure the princess to the contrary, smiling as you do so. You do not mind if she talks too much. That is better than not talking at all. Her affable nature makes it easier to spend time with her. Manners be damned. You were always scolded too, back in the conservatoire, for your behavior. You know full well how aggravating it can be to be upbraided, not for any particular misdemeanor, but for being yourself. Well, I'm glad you understand, the princess answers with a giggle. I should really be off, though. It's bad manners to keep you, especially when you look so sleepy. Get some rest. We can talk more tomorrow, if you don't mind my ceaseless prattle. I'm glad you seem to appreciate it, at least. No, I'm sure you'll get tired of it eventually. All my old maids did. The princess departs, and in her absence you take a seat upon the bed, your new bed. You cannot help but think that this is all happening very quickly. It does not seem like very long ago that you were still in the forest, running for your life amongst the tall, imposing trees with their gnarled, grasping branches. The forest might as well be a distant memory now, though. You are indoors, inside a castle no less, and you've been given a room to sleep in and clothes that you might wear. It seems premature still to declare that you are out of the woods, in a metaphorical sense, I mean, but things could certainly be worse. You force yourself to stand, on legs which feel too weary to support you, and change into the nightclothes hanging in the wardrobe. The nightclothes do not fit you perfectly, but you are too tired to care about that. You are too tired to care about much of anything. You retreat to the bed and slide beneath the sheets. Then you let your eyelids fall shut. You exhale. And lulled by the breeze which blows outdoors, you fall asleep. You're so very tired. Your sleep is deep, dark one, darker even than the furthest abyss of the nighttime. Like the nighttime sky, however, which shimmers with the stars, your sleep is not devoid of those prismatic fragments of you humans call your dreams. Though in this case, I rather think your nocturnal imaginings are worth rather more than that. They're not dreams, are they? To which slumbering mind is subjected. You know they are not. Otherwise your body would not be so very cold, not so clammy. The images that flicker beneath your closed eyelids, like the ghostly images in phenakistoscope. What? In a phenakistoscope, were not conjured from within your mind. They were instead taken from your memories. You're not merely dreaming, you are remembering. You remember the girls who slept in your dormitory, and how they always hastened to use a shower first so you were last for breakfast. You remembered how, when you finally did arrive at the dining hall, the most desirable morsels had already been snaffled up by the girls who got there earlier. You circled too to find the seat, once you finally did get your hands on some food, because nobody ever wanted to sit with you. The other girls all acted like you were a leper, save for when they wanted favors. They never asked for these favors, mine, for why would they? To them your father's prestige did not matter. They were all wealthy ladies too, many of them wealthier than you. When everybody has the airs and graces of a princess, how is anybody supposed to stand out? You stood out the least in your class, perhaps because you were one of the smallest, the frailest, the sickliest, who always came down with colds in the winter. Your poor health did not stop the other girls from treating you as a servant, though. When they remembered that you existed, of course. It was your lot in life, as you dwelt within the stone walls of the conservatoire, to carry school bags across the field like a pack mule. Then come the evenings, the girls in your dormitory had you sewing on the missing buttons, and ironing out the creases and wrinkles in their uniforms. If there was an odd job that needed performing, you would always be asked. But these girls did not ask you. That would have been too civilized. They ordered you instead. And as they order you, they laughed at you. They laughed and they laughed and they laughed. The laughter hurt, but hurt considerably less than the kicks did, and the slaps, and the pinches. Once during an embroidery lesson, one of your classmates had an accident with her sewing scissor. She stumbled, or at least she pretended to, and before you knew it, the silvery blades of those scissors were embedded in your left palm. Ow! Damn. This happened quite some time ago, when you were even littler than you are now, but you can still remember it. It hurt a lot. The scissors were sharp and they perforated your skin, not all the way down to the bone, but enough to bleed. Your wound bled bright red, like strawberry jam, all over your embroidery. Then, when your professor saw it, she shrieked. Her face turned as pale as why? And she looked for a few moments as though she might faint, though you were the one who was in pain. Your professor looked at your face. She could not bear looking at your hand, then demanded to know why you could not be more careful. Her tone had been an accusatory one, almost as if you stabbed yourself in the hand with your scissors to goad her. The pain in your hand hurt, but the giggles of her persecutors hurt all the more. That's a freaking stupid-ass teacher. Why? Seriously? Ay. They were never punished for that. Perhaps your professor did not care enough to punish them. Perhaps she, like everybody else, thought it was all your fault. The wound, when all was said and done, was not too deep. You did not even need any stitches. It healed well enough in time, on its own, though it still left a scar. A white raised thing like a crescent moon. You still have that scar. You do not know how much blood you lost. It seemed like a lot back in the classroom. You could smell it in the air, sharp as iron. But it could not have been that much evidently. If your wound had become more serious, perhaps your professor might have cared. I doubt it. It doesn't seem like she cared to begin with. The first thing she did when she saw your bleeding hand was accuse you of not being careful. She didn't even, like, offer to give you any medical assistance. I doubt she would have cared if it, like, went through your hand or whatever. Perhaps your classmates, too, would have felt some modicum of guilt over what they did. But this seems very unlikely. You know that your blood meant nothing to your classmates. Why should it? If you meant next to nothing, then the blood in your veins was, if such a thing is possible, even more inconsequential. You feel disoriented when you wake, at long last with the rising sun. You do not remember what you dreamt, but you do not think that your dreams were particularly pleasant nature. If they were, your heart would not be hammering so. Oops, I don't know what that said. I accidentally clicked it. Sorry. Although maybe I accidentally, like, clicked it backwards, because I'm pretty sure I just read that, so maybe we're fine? Yeah, I guess I accidentally hit the backwards button? Ill at ease, you glance around. You are lying in a narrow bed in an unremarkable room, one with dull beige walls and a warped wooden floor. Where exactly are you? This does not look like your dormitory in the conservatoire. Not unless it has shrunk threefold overnight. Your brow furrows as you attempt to recall the events of the night prior, until with a gasp it all clicks into place. You remember now. You're running through the woods, trying to escape from... Ugh, you shudder. You do not want to think of what it was that you were trying to escape from. You presume that you must have been given your hunter the slip, though. Because you are still in one piece, awake and alert enough to face the dawning of the new morning. You still have all your limbs, and your facial features appear to be in the correct configuration. That is more than enough to be getting along with. You look to the foot of your bed and then blink, bemused at your discovery. You can see, lying upon the sheets, a garment. 2 garments, actually, of black and white, folded into a neat white square. What could that be? A maid's outfit? If so, that would not be too surprising. You can now recall your visit with the princess the night prior, and her assertions that you must be her lady's maid. Well, if the role she wants to, if that is the role she wants to assume, you have no qualms with it. It's far preferable to the other role you played last night, that of a startled quarry running from his pursuer. You press your fingers against a humble maid's attire. It feels surprisingly soft to the touch, not coarse like you expected. These clothes are rather fine. Did the princess put them here? If so, that is all the more reason to wear them. You are not churlish enough to deny her hospitality. You rise from your new bed and then undress yourself, unbuttoning the front of your plain white nightgown and setting it aside. The task is accomplished. You then clad yourself in new attire, black, white, and eminently sensible. You feel very far away from the girl that you once were. Your face might be the same as always, but something within you seems to have changed. You're no longer a student, not as long as you mean to reside within the princess's castle. You'd far rather be her servant. Assured of your newfound identity, you retreat from your chamber and then make your way to your mistress's room. The castle is a large one with many, many rooms and many, many hallways to connect them, and for a brief while you find yourself horrendously lost. You cannot remember where the princess's bedroom is. You're beginning to feel rather disoriented when, to your relief, your eyes snag upon a stairwell which looks rather familiar. Could this be the way? You ascend the steps, your footfalls cushioned by the plush carpet which lines them, then find your way down the very same hall that you traversed the night prior. If your memory does not fail you, the princess's bedroom ought to be... Yes, it is here. You rap upon the door, but receive nothing in the way of response. Is the princess still abed? You wonder briefly whether you oughtn't to wait until she has risen of her own accord. But no. The sun is high in the sky, and it would seem a shame to let the princess sleep through the day. You ought, instead, to rouse her. That seems like the sort of duty a lady's maid should attend to. You enter the princess's bedroom and glance about. Her room looks much the same as you remember from the night prior, though the ceilings seem even higher when viewed in the morning's light. You can see now that there are fewer shadows to impede your view. How very opulent of your young mistress's abode is. Her armoire is large and imposing, as is the grate in which you will be expected to keep a fire lit during the nights. The princess herself, meanwhile, is curled on her side beneath the sheets, looking rather less grandiose than her title would suggest. She's attired in a nightgown adorned with frills, and her hair is split across her pillow like spilled gold. In her slender arms, meanwhile, held to her chest, is a doll, the very same one she was cossetting last night. Cossetting? I don't know. You suppose this doll must be your favorite. Idly, you wonder what the doll's name is, though you do not suppose it matters all that much. It's time to wake your mistress. You call out to the princess, but she is largely unresponsive. Her eyelashes are still sewn tightly shut and her lips pursed in slumber. You purse your lips too and sigh. Well, nobody ever said your job would be easy. Once again you call to the princess, and this time she replies. Her response is not a favorable one, however. She sighs, then turns away from you, her doll clutched to her chest. Just give me a little longer. The princess sounds so ineffable, but you do not take pity on her. If you've learnt anything from the conservator, save for knowledge pertaining to the respiratory tracts of fish, it is that one must be cruel to be kind. You do not think this adage was practiced with any great success in the conservator, but perhaps it will have more impact upon the princess. You tell her once again to wake up, more sternly this time. You will not let her sleep, for she's slept long enough already. It is very slovenly, really, to still be abed at such an hour. Oh, defeated the princess sighs. Alright, I can see that I can't twist you around my little finger. I'm up, you don't need to nag me. Once you have roused the princess from her bed, you have put her doll to one side, you set upon her toilet. What? What? Her toilet? You aid the princess in the brushing of her hair, a chore which she submits willingly, like a cat might allow its fur to be brushed. You allow yourself to ponder, as you run the bristles of the princess's brush through her hair, how wonderfully soft it feels against your skin. But a curious query from the princess, "Are you alright, dear one?" brings you back to your senses. You're rather lost in thought there. Look lively now. You wouldn't want the princess to catch wind of your salacious thoughts, would you? Risque. I thought you had learnt your lesson about that already. Suitably chastened, you finish the princess's hair and then set the brush aside. Not that the princess's tresses have been taken care of. You must start on her attire. The princess remains seated upon the edge of her bed, looking up at you for askance. She does not ask you to avert her eyes, nor does she make any motion divesting herself of her nightgown. It really does seem as though she expects you to undertake this task on your own. Is that alright? You ask the princess as much. You would not wish to impinge upon her modesty, but she only laughs. Yes, that's alright. It's what you're supposed to do if you're to be a lady's maid. I'm used to being dressed and undressed. I'm not a bit squeamish about it. She might be not squeamish about it, but you are. You have never seen a naked woman before accepting yourself. Even though then, however, you have always dressed and undressed furtively, not wanting to examine your body for longer than is strictly necessary. You've never much liked the way you look. You make a few more mumbled objections, but the princess sweeps them to one side easily. It's alright, I might be a princess, but we're both people underneath all of our clothes. I doubt we look much different. You're not sure about that. You've not yet seen the princess unadorned, but you already know, to look at her face, that you are different. She's much, much prettier than you are. But she's waiting, and you do not wish to keep her any longer. You steady your nerves. Then you reach out with trembling hands as you begin to undo the buttons which run down the front of the princess's nightgown. You work as quickly as you're able, which, given how badly your hands are shaking, is not very. You fumble with a couple of buttons, flinching as you do so. The princess, however, seems blissfully unaware of what it is exactly you are doing, or not doing, for your fingers have begun to seize up with the front of her nightgown. What? She's not even looking at you. Instead, her gaze is directed beyond your shoulder to the windowsill and the sky above it. Isn't it particularly sunny, but I don't think it's too cold outside. Going for a walk might not be a bad idea. What do you think, dear one? You think that you would like to finish undressing the princess as soon as possible, so you can make some progress on dressing her again. The sight of all this exposed skin is bad for your heart. Fortunately, you are able to make quick work of the princess's nightgown despite your initial mishaps spurred on, perhaps by your anxiety. You bid the princess to stand, which she does, and neatly she steps out of her nightgown, her motions once again as graceful and as fluid as a dancer's. This task completed, you search hurriedly, worriedly, the princess's red dress. Where is it? You cannot find it. Sweat begins to prickle in the back of your neck. Your palms, meanwhile, feel uncomfortably clammy. The moments pass awkwardly, uneasily as you search, the princess standing there, all the while, as naked as the day she was born. Why did you not find her dress before you stripped her of her night one? What a fool you are. The princess, noting your panic, giggles, then says, Are you looking for my dress? Yes, you reply, your face flushed. That is what you were doing. I thought so. I did wonder before you started undressing me why you didn't ask where it was. Maybe it slipped your mind? It had slipped your mind, yes, to your shame. You were too busy trying not to fixate upon the princess's bared skin to think about how best to conceal it. My dress is in my armoire, the princess says, glancing over the aforementioned piece of furniture. The armoire of hers is an intricately carved wooden structure, large enough, or so you estimate, to fit inside enough dresses to attire the whole ballroom's worth of princesses. I'd like to wear the red one. It's my favorite. Would you be a dear and fetch it for me? I don't want to rush you, but it is rather cold in here, especially when I'm still naked. She raises a good point. You turn away from the princess and make your way to her armoire. Where the heck were we looking? Where were we looking for her dress if the closet wasn't our first option? I think we might be a little stupid. And incredibly horny, it seems. Once there, you open the wooden doors and peruse the clothes hanging within. It's just as you expected. Inside that wardrobe lies numerous dresses, all of them finely sewn and decorated with no shortage of ribbons, lace, and iridescent pearls. You find the princess's red dress soon enough, and then hurry to her side. With your spoils in hand, you hurry to dress her, concealing, once again, the princess's pale skin beneath layers and layers of soft red velvet. She's easier to look at now, you think, with her skin concealed. That might have been the most nerve-wracking task you have ever had to accomplish, even more so than your perilous escape through the foggy forest. Why, it seems a small miracle that you can still remember how to breathe. Ah, that's much better. Thank you, dear one, for your help. You've not been here for a full day, but I already wonder what I'd do without you. Shyly, you assure the princess that you did nothing, really, nothing beyond your job. You did not do anything incredible. And in any case, being complimented by somebody as so pretty is embarrassing. Aw, don't be like that. I want to compliment you. Why shouldn't I, when you've been so helpful? It'd be rude not to, and anyway... I think you're very pretty too. Oh my. Your face flushes from this more deeply than even before. You ought to count yourself lucky, really. what with all this excessive blushing, that the princess does not seem to possess any vampiristic tendencies. You're making yourself quite the easy target. Now, the princess declares, why don't we go for a walk? It's a nice day, it's a nice enough day, and I get so very bored being cooped up inside. You can't think of any particular objections to raise to this remark, and you think that the princess might have a point. The castle, though expansive, is somewhat stifling. The walls are so very thick, they put you in the mind of a crypt. With your acquiescence assured, the princess quits her chamber, her posture elegant and her gait unhurried. She seems not to walk as she navigates her way through the seemingly endless hallways of her home, but to float like a cloud. The hem of her dress swishes around her legs and her hair shifts like a shroud. The castle's courtyard, meanwhile, is sadly lacking in comparison to the princess's beauty. The courtyard is fenced in by the castle's walls, which look in the stark midday light, tall and imposing. Faceless soldiers standing sentinel. Though the sun is out, it's not particularly bright, and neither is it particularly warm. The courtyard itself, meanwhile, is in a state of disarray. The flower beds are in shambles, all overgrown with weeds. It is all rather depressing. The princess's castle might be grand in scale, but the courtyard itself is simple, hemmed into a claustrophobic degree, like a coffin. The princess, however, seems not to share your dolorous mood. She instead looks elated by her newfound surroundings, her smile unwavering. She gambols about like a lamb, flitting hither and thither as she examines the weed-infested flower beds. Her frolicking comes to a cease, however, by a bush. One is full of bright red roses. Oh, how very pretty! Do you not think they are gorgeous, dear one? The flowers are not too disappointing, you suppose. They make for a fine spectacle, in fact. A welcome splash of color when contrasted with the dullness and drabness which permeates the rest of the courtyard. Though the other flowers in the bed are wilted, withered things, it is not so for these roses. They are rich bright red, just like blood. Their heads so full they seem to almost droop beneath the weight of their own engorged petals. They are pretty, in a sense. But there's something unsettling about them too, something that is almost obscene. How did those roses become so very red? What has been sustaining them? Could it be possible that these roses have been draining the life from the other flowers which are struggling to grow within this garden? It is a fanciful thought, but... Oh, they are simply divine. Looking at these roses always lifts my spirits. They really are my most favorite flowers. I simply must pick some of them. Perhaps I can use them to decorate my bedchamber. It could use a bit of color. The princess reaches out to pluck one of these roses free from its resting place among its brethren. You watch her, your breath bated, anxious that this gesture might result in perforated flesh and bright red blood. But the princess is not as clumsy as you fear. Of course she's not. Who did she think she was? You? Rather than worrying about other people, you would better be served if you worried more about yourself. What is up with this narrator? They seem weird. Like, they seem to hate us a little bit. The princess holds her newly pilfered rose to her nose and inhales, her eyelids falling shut as the flower scent washes over her. A few moments of silence pass. Then the princess begins to toy with the petals which adorn the flower's crown. Now let me see. Sorry, I'm eating a cough drop. Now let me see. I wonder what fate has in store for me. She loves me. The princess plucks a petal from the flower's overburdened head. She loves me not. The princess continues with this childish incantation, all the while stripping her rose slowly and methodically of its petals. These petals flutter about the princess like bloody snow. The princess's voice, meanwhile, echoes throughout the courtyard, even more melodic than the strains of pianola. She loves me not. She loves me not. The princess's fingers hover over the final petal which crowns her nearly denuded flower. Then, with a triumphant smile, she declares, "She loves me. I knew it." You watch the princess, amused by her girlish good cheer. The little mantra she has been reciting is one that you are familiar with. The girls at the conservatory also used to engage in this little game. The younger ones, at least, who believed that a fairy tale prince would whisk them away. You might have participated in this game yourself when you were a child yourself, but you never pinned your hopes and dreams on the handsome prince. Your interest in princes has always been minimal. When it comes to fair princesses, though, well, that is a different matter altogether, isn't it? Pleasantly, you ask the princess whose love it is she wishes to court, a query which makes the princess giggle. "Oh, dear one, who else would I be thinking of?" "Naturally, I was thinking of you." "Naturally?" She says it so easily, as though you ought to have suspected as much, and indeed, part of you did. You wanted to believe, yet part of you was afraid to. You did not want to be arrogant enough to assume that the princess might care for your affections. You begin to blush, your cheeks almost as red as the roses, while the princess laughs. She laughs and laughs and laughs, her voice clear and sweet like a nightingale's song, as though you are the funniest thing she has ever seen. You never liked being laughed at you when you were, dwelt within the walls of the conservatory, but it is different with her. You have not known her for all that long, but you're already entranced by her, ensnared. She has you wrapped around her little finger. Oh my. The princess's laugh tapers off into a series of giggles as, smiling, she wipes her eyes with the back of her hand. That was quite an amusing diversion, but I've just had an idea. You look at the princess curiously. What idea? You can't tell? You cannot even begin to guess. I just thought that all this watching must be boring you, the princess says, tossing the rose-stripped stems carelessly into the ground. You should give it a try. Please do. It'll be fun. The princess retrieves a second red rose from the bush, deftly snapping it between her fingers, and offers it to you. I want to see what fate has in store for you two. You smile at the princess, touched by her enthusiasm. Indulging in a childish game like this might not be the best use of your time, but the princess looks so very determined you would not wish to hurt her. What could be the harm, really, in consenting? The only real casualty of this game would be one singular rose, the rose that the princess is holding towards you. You reach out meaning to accept the princess's offering, but... Oh no. You're clumsy and you seize the stem of the rose with a touch too much strength. Oh. The head of the rose might be pretty, but there is more to the rose than its bright red flowers. Roses have thorns, too, a fact that you are painfully reminded of. Pain flares through your finger and you gasp. You take a step back, the hem of your skirt swishing around your ankles. Your fingers is stinging, and so are your eyes. You ought to have been more careful. Why were you so stupid? You poor dear, you're bleeding, the princess exclaims, alarmed. Then she frowns. This is all my fault. If I had not suggested this silly game, this never would have happened. Please, let me take care of you. And how is she going to do that? Perhaps she means to take a handkerchief from her pocket with which she might staunch your wound? Princesses tend to carry handkerchiefs around with them, don't they? Silken ones? How else would they give their brave knights tokens of their gratitude, once the aforementioned knights have successfully slain dragons? Princesses can hardly dispense kisses as favors. It is not done. That is what you always thought, but... Please, hold still. This might sting a little bit. The princess is anything but ordinary. Rather than take a handkerchief out of her pocket, she instead encloses her white, slender fingers upon your hand. Carefully, as though she's handling a precious object, she raises your hand, her eyes affixed all the while on the beads of startlingly crimson blood, which are oozing luridly from your wound. She licks her lower lip. Then she dips her head. Oh, that seems unsanitary, but okay. She parts her mouth, and with a soft sigh which borders on sensuous, she slips your injured digit between her teeth. So much for princesses not dispensing kisses as tokens of appreciation. This might not be a conventional kiss, but it feels intimate regardless, almost startlingly so. The princess's lips, which are as red as any rose, are enclosed around your index finger. You can feel the warmth of the princess's mouth about your skin, and the wetness of it. Oh god, what are we doing here? The sensations make your whole body quake. You did not expect this. Tremorously, in a voice which wavers, you ask the princess what she's doing. Oh? The princess glances up at you, her mouth still enclosed around your finger. Didn't I tell you? I'm trying to stop the bleeding. I wonder if she really is a vampire or something. I don't know. I don't trust her. Yes, you gathered as much, but... Is there any problem? I'm not making you uncomfortable, am I? It is not, you say, that she's making you uncomfortable, per se, but this is rather awkward. You did not expect it, that is all. And is she not worried that this is unhygienic? Exactly, that's what I'm worried about. Unhygienic? The princess blinks. She's the very picture of innocence, which is funny, really, given your finger is still nestled between or against her tongue. I don't know what you mean by that exactly, but I've heard that this is the best way to take care of cuts. My nursemaid used to do this for me. When I was a child, it's what you're supposed to do. Your nursemaid is a little sus. And you ask, your voice catching in your throat, did her nursemaid keep staunching her wounds with her mouth when she got older? Well, no. But my nursemaid was dismissed when I was 8 years old. That's the normal way of things. I had my ladies' maids to look after me then. How very interesting. And did they ever clean her wound like this? No, the princess says, smiling mischievously, because I'm not clumsy enough to cut myself, silly. Now, that was quite the sharp retort. You did not expect it. Your face turns even redder, if such a thing is possible, though this might perhaps be to your benefit. With some luck, all of your blood will flow to your face, rather than to your finger, and your bleeding will stop. Has it stopped? Your injury was not a deep one. There should be no need for the princess to keep on suckling, but she still is. You're not accustomed to the intimacy of this nature, and is making your heart flutter. If the princess knew what her mouth was doing to you, you are sure she would not be so very familiar. You feel quietly, crushingly confident that she would scorn you for your feelings and deem them unnatural. It would not be the first time. At this point, you should be used to rejection. It still stings, though. It stings much, much more than any thorn or on any rose ever could. The days pass following your misadventures in the rose garden, in a relaxed, unhurried sort of manner. Your mad dash through the forest is beginning to feel like a distant memory, so much so that you can scarcely recall the raw, naked fear you once felt as you fled for your life. There's no running to be had while you're working for the princess. You would have nowhere else to run, and in any event, there's no longer any reason to run. The shadows which had once tormented you have long at last begun to recede. You can scarcely recall as you lay down in your bed the petty cruelties you were subjected to by your classmates at the conservatoire. They no longer matter. Your attention is focused not upon yourself but upon the princess. The more time you expend with her, the more you come to care for her. You have become quite besotted with her, but you are yet to realize it. Well, I never. How very ignorant can one girl be of her own feelings? The princess is not half as ignorant as you are, though, despite having spent her whole life within the palace's walls. The weight of her own feelings are not unknown to you, and during one stormy night she chooses to make them known to you. You're in the princess's chambers later, perhaps than you ought to be, later than is strictly appropriate. It is dark outside, and there's little save the light of the moon to alleviate that, and the fire which crackles in the grate. You've only finished stoking that very fire, and now you rise. You look to the princess, who is lying in her bed, and you bid her a good night, as you have many nights past. With a neat curtsy, you turn to leave, but the princess's plaintive voice gives you pause. Wait, dear one, do not go out. Not just yet. Perplexed, you paused and looked back at the princess. Though she's smiling, her expression is unusually wan. Wan? Is she alright? Oh, I'm sure I'll be fine. It's just nights like this, you know, which make me feel a little out of sorts. And what, you asked, does she mean by that? Only that it's very cold and very dark. It's very windy besides. I'm afraid there'll be a storm later. It was awfully cloudy earlier when we went out for a walk. Princess is not mistaken about that. Sky, when the pair of you promenaded about the gardens earlier, was grey and steely, the wind bitingly cold. You can hear the wind rattling mournfully against the panes in the princess's bedchamber. The princess's castle is built of stone and is well fortified, but even with the fire it is rather cold. You'd not like to think about how much chillier by comparison it will be in your humble bedchamber, which is not fortunate enough to have its own fireplace. It might sound childish, but I've always found it hard to sleep on stormy nights like this. They make me feel uncomfortable. You look at the princess with no small degree of sympathy. No longer clad in her bright red dress, she looks oddly, uncommonly vulnerable. Will she really be alright, all alone in her oversized bed in her high-ceiling bedchamber? You know it is silly of you to contemplate such a query. Why would she not be alright? There's nobody in the castle to hurt her, but still you fret for her. As her lady's maid, it is your job to fret for her. You would never want your mistress to feel unhappy. You ask the princess what she would have you do, and the princess perks up at this, pleased, perhaps, that you are taking the initiative. I wouldn't like to take up too much of your time when it's so very late. But would you mind sitting with me a while longer and reading to me? Provided that you can, of course. That is a fair enough question, but your pride bristles regardless. Hastily, you reassure the princess that yes, of course you could read. You were a poor student in many aspects at the conservatoire, but you had something of a gift when it came to the literary arts. Reading books is all you've ever been good at. Oh, I see. I suppose I should have known. You're so incredible, I sometimes wonder if there's anything that you can't do. The princess's high praises make you flush. Awkwardly, you look away. Being able to read, you assure her, is not that great of a feat. Yeah. Perhaps it isn't where you hail from, but it is here. Very few of my old servants could read, and they certainly couldn't read the books I like. That piques your interest. Intrigued, you ask the princess what books exactly she likes. Well, I'm glad you asked. I'm fond of fairy tales, you see, old ones from centuries past. I have a collection of them here, the princess says, indicating a book on her bedside table, as thick as a mortuary-style slab. The book is old, though, and the bindings are weak. The pages brittle, the writing woefully old-fashioned. I didn't trust any of my past servants with that book, but I think you would do a good job of breathing life into these old stories. Would you mind reading for me for just a brief while, please, dear one? Oh, please. The princess's request seems to be a simple one expressed sweetly, so much so that you have no reason to refuse her. You take a seat beside the princess upon her luxurious bed, which sinks beneath your weight. Then you retrieve the leather-bound book which is resting upon her bedside table and spread it open. The pages of the book are very brittle, like the princess said, and the bindings of the book are loose. You can feel in the heft of the book's manifold pages. The weight of the age is concealed within it. How old is this book? Perhaps it is as old as the castle in which it resides. It is with a quiet voice, hesitant at first, they begin to read to the princess, a tale of courtly love which culminates in a lavish wedding ceremony. All the while, as you read, the princess listens to you, enraptured, hanging, or so it seems, upon your every word. Once you reach the final phase embossed upon the pages of the aged tome, and they lived happily ever after. The princess sighs as though this tale has touched her very soul. Would that there was a handsome prince to marry me, she says somberly. Or better yet, a beautiful princess. At this point, I think I would even settle for a lowly scullery maid. You blush at this idle remark and mumble softly that this would not be proper. The storm outside is squalling, and you have never been one to raise your voice. You do not expect, therefore, the princess will overhear you, but she does. She observes you, her head resting against her pillows, and says, "And what would be the problem with that, As my maid, shouldn't my happiness come before any silly ideas of propriety? Well, of course, you reply, but for the princess to marry a scullery maid." You're still hung up about that? The princess titters. Don't pay it too much heed, I'm just talking to myself. As if anything like that would ever happen, when there's no priest around who could officiate it. You think that there are greater issues with the princess's plan than the lack of a priest, though she does present a good point. The castle is an empty one. Even if the princess were to find somebody that she loves, there would be nobody to make such a wedding official. You cannot help but feel you have avoided a good deal of nuisance. But by the same token, do you not feel a touch disappointed? Well, never mind. That was a nice story, the princess says, but I'm not sleepy yet. It's still storming outside. Won't you read me one more? You would not mind, you reply, but it is getting late. You really ought to return to your own chamber. I know, but can't you find it in your heart to read one more story to me? Just one. You can choose a short one, I won't complain. You have some doubts about that, but as before, you cannot resist the princess's demands. It is not, you think, because she is a princess, though that is, of course, a part of it, but because she is, well, radiant. You would not, you think, as you turn to the next story recounted in this aged compendium, want to upset her. You'd rather cut out your own tongue. You read another story to the princess which is a similar vein to the last, impossible adventures culminating at their close in a happy marriage. This tale delights the princess just as much as the tale you read prior, and she begs for another, then another. One bedroom story becomes 5, and even then, when the candles which flicker on the princess's bedside are close to guttering out, the princess is not satisfied. Like a grasping, greedy child, she has never heard of moderation. When she wants something, she seeks to glut herself with it. Her only request is that of more. If she were less comely? Perhaps her inability to adhere to the word no would be seen as a character defect. The princess is very comely, however, and so when she makes her next request, you almost agree offhand without considering the ramifications. I think I could go to sleep now, but the storm is still raging. I feel lonely on my own in this big empty bed, so... I know, the princess's eyes light up like the night sky in a thunderstorm. Why don't you sleep with me? You stare at the princess, your eyes wide as goose eggs. Slowly, you blink. Then, just as slowly, you bid her to repeat herself. Didn't you hear me? The princess giggles. Maybe you've been so busy cleaning up after me, you've neglected to clean out your own ears. I said, dear one, would you like to sleep with me? If that is the question she truly means to ask, then is it easy enough to answer? Then it is easy enough to answer. Of course you would like to sleep with her. It would be an honor. But would it really be alright for you to accept such an invitation? It must be gross breach of protocol, surely, for a lowly domestic such as yourself to share a bed with a princess. You sit upon the princess's bedside fretting, while she observes with wide beseeching eyes. She is waiting. Well, what's the matter, dear one? Why do you tarry so? Could it be... The princess's lower lip begins to tremble. Don't you want to lie with me after all? The sorrow present in the princess's voice and in her face makes you feel awfully guilty. Hurriedly, you console her. You tell her in no uncertain terms that if she truly wishes to partake in your company, then you have no qualms about it. Why would you? Well then, don't just stand there dilly-dallying, silly. Come and join me, come. And that is what you do, after returning briefly to your own chamber to change into your nightgowns. Once dressed, you waste no time in returning to your impetuous princess's side. She's already lying on her glorious four-poster bed, awaiting your return as though you are a knight-errant gone away to slay some wicked dragon. The princess giggles when she sees you. In your haste to change, you have made a hash of the buttons, and she bids you to come closer. Let me fix that for you, silly. Oh no, you say, I couldn't possibly let you do that. I am but a servant after all. Should it not be your job to dress her? Maybe so, the princess says, but I don't mind a bit of role reversal. It makes things more fun. You tried a few more refutations, but in vain. The princess similarly discards all of them. Quite at the princess's mercy, she might even be more stubborn than you are. You capitulate to her demands. You let the princess unbutton the front of your nightdress, then rebutton them, so the fabric of your plain gown is drawn shut. Satisfied with her handiwork, she has very elegant hands. The princess draws back and pats the mattress beside her. Now, come in. It must be horribly cold out there, but these sheets are warm. Coyly, the princess smiles. And so am I. Oh, boy! You feel warm yourself as you slide into the bed beside the princess. Your face is as red as the gown the princess so often wears, as red as the roses in the castle's grounds. She's about to kill us, isn't she? But you know what? This might not be such a bad way to die. All the while, your heart is fluttering. Does the princess know what an effect she's having on you? Surely she must. How could any woman be so blind? There, the princess exclaims once your body is lying beside hers. That is much better. Do you feel cozy now, dear one? You swallow. With a shaky voice, you reassure her. Yes, you are cozy. You are quite cozy indeed. Very good. The storm might be raging outdoors, but it can't get us here. I know. When I'm with you, I'll be safe. It's strange, but... The princess reaches out, then takes your hand in hers, twining your fingers together like a chain. When I'm with you, I feel so very light. It's as though nothing in this world can hurt me. You make me feel safe, so I want to make you feel safe too. I'll take very, very good care of you. I promise. You return her smile with one of your own, touched by her thoughtfulness, though something about her promise does make you wonder. Should it not be your job to look after her, as a domestic? In a way, the princess replies after a pause. Well, you've been taking good care of me already. Now I need to return the favor. As a princess, I'm supposed to look after my vassals. It's all part of the job description. You were unaware that being a princess came with a job description. You thought the profession came with far fewer written responsibilities and far fewer forms assigned than, say, becoming a doctor or astrophysicist or a mathematics professor. You tell the princess this sleepily and she laughs. You do say some funny things, dear one. I think you must be tired. Rest your head. You've been working so hard. I think you deserve it. Yes, you think, only half conscious. You think you deserve it too. You have been working for a long time. I've been running for even longer, but now at long last you feel like you can let your fears go. Your eyelids begin to droop. Your body beleaguered by sudden all-consuming fatigue. And in the quiet, understated sort of way, your consciousness is conveyed to Morpheus' kingdom. Your sleep is a deep one, despite the storm which rages outdoors. The wind is howling like a couple of wild cats, both locked in a vicious and bloodthirsty bout to the death, but you do not hear it. Swaddled by the warm blankets about you, and soothed by the princess's presence, you are immune from all the ills of the world. When you're with the princess, you feel safe, secure, and... yes, you even feel loved. It is a pity, then, that these feelings did not last for very long. Oh no! No! You know that something is wrong, catastrophically so, the moment you open your eyes. Your thoughts are hopelessly jumbled, but you're certain that when you fell asleep it was in the bed. A nice warm bed, no less, beneath soft, comfortable sheets. You're not lying in a bed right now, though. You're not, in fact, lying at all. Uh-oh. Uh-oh. You were standing instead against a cold, hard wall made of stone. The curve of your back is pressed against a wall so intimately you can feel the icy chill seeping through the fabric of your nightgown. Your feet, which are bare, are similarly pressed against cold and feeling stone. They feel so frigid you cannot help but tremble. You're trembling so much that you can feel your teeth chattering together. They sound like castanets. Your sound is almost jaunty as it echoes through your cell, for that is indeed where you are. The princess's bedchamber wherein you fell asleep is a thing now of the past. You are standing instead, you realize, with a sharp start in the cell of some great underground dungeon. You swallow, and when you do, you can taste something bitter in your tongue. Your stomach is beginning to churn with anxiety. You feel like you are going to be sick, a feeling which wells up inside you, to a staggering degree, when you catch notice of the stench. You are not, you realize, the only one in the dungeon. There are others here. Others attired in simple black and white outfits of servants which look much like the dress you once wore. The others who are with you, however, in this expansive cell, manacled to the walls, are in no fit state to speak to you, nor to tell you of their plights. They are all unfeeling, unseeing, unbreathing. They are all dead. You cannot approach these servants to check their pulses, for you yourself are restrained, but even if you could, there would be no point. There's no way any human could survive the wounds which have been inflicted upon these sad, slumped bodies. Over there, you see a woman slumped, in front of her once white apron stained with blackish blood. There's a gaping wound in her stomach, one through which her entrails have half escaped, and some sort of begrudging burgundy goop which might have once been pale pink. There's another woman slumped beside this first of the smaller stature. She's skinnier. Maybe she's not a woman after all, but an adolescent like yourself. She might even be younger. The girl's age or lack thereof did not preclude her attacker from inflicting upon her horrors. Alas, for her body is even more mutilated than the first. Her body is peppered with even more wells and her face has been half smashed in. Only one eye remains, staring fixedly at the wall opposite her, in the ruined remains of what was once her skull. Over there you see a woman who's missing both her arms and lower jaw. Over there you see another who's missing her entire whole lower half. Where have her legs gone? You have no idea. The injuries inflicted upon these bodies are ghastly, but their advances decay enough to turn your stomach. You know not how long these carcasses have been laying down here, but they have begun to putrefy. You fear a similar fate might befall you should you stay here. You need to escape. Fitfully, you struggle against the manacles which bind you, but alas, it is no use. You cannot free yourself from the walls. Your restraints are much too strong, and you are much too weak. Panic rises up in your throat, cold and icy, while terror seizes your heart. This too, glacial. It is obvious that escape is impossible, but you squirm and writhe like a rat caught in a firestorm. There's little point, however, to your struggles. They have succeeded in nothing. As you attempt to free yourself, save making the steel's manacles dig into your abused wrists more sharply than ever. Gasp. That hurts. Well, you ought to have known that this would not work. The very definition of insanity is, you know, performing a set of action over and over again, hoping for a different response. In that sense, perhaps one could argue optimism is not so very different from insanity. Now, that is an interesting point to consider, would you not agree? No, evidently not. You're still trying to escape, you foolish girl, as if that would do you any good. The clangorous rattling of your steely restraints is rather starting to get on my nerves. You're making enough noise to rattle the dead down here. In your dark, dingy cell, and all your screaming is hardly helping matters. I wish that you would cease this infernal racket, but I know you will not. Nothing I say could ever get through to you. Not that you have ever listened to me in the first place. Perhaps you would listen to her, though. Is she not your kind, considerate mistress? Look now, she has come all this way, into the dark depths of the castle's cold, unhospitable dungeon to see you. Is that not kind of her? Oh, dear one. The princess trills, entering the dungeon with a series of lilting steps. It would seem you have finally awoken. How are you? Based on all the infernal racket that you've been making, it would seem like you have no shortage of energy. Balefully, you turn your head, so as to meet the eyes of the princess. She's standing but a few paces away, beneath the roughly hewn stone arch which bids one entry, but rarely ever an exit to the dungeons. The dungeons are dull and drab, but the princess is wearing her favorite red dress. It's so bright and brilliant that for a few moments it hurts you to look at her. Once the red of the princess's outfit made you think of romance. Now it makes you think of violence. You must forgive me for leaving you down here for so long. That was unfair of me. I did think of waiting here with you, by your side until you awoke, but... Once again, the princess giggles, a light airy giggle which does not at all suit the situation in which you have found yourself. A dungeon is not a fit place, after all, for a princess. It is horribly cold down here, and so very drab, and there's nowhere nice and soft to lay my head. I could have brought my pillows down from my bed, I suppose, and my blankets. But then they would have gotten dirty, and that would be a disaster. I need to be more careful. I wouldn't have anybody clean up after my messes soon. Not when I've dispatched of you. Once again the princess laughs. Her laughter is light and lilting, like the chiming of a silvery bell, but it does little to alleviate your concern. If anything, it makes you feel even more alarmed. Did she say she meant to dispatch of you? Yes, that's right. Could you not tell? I thought you might have figured it out already, after waking up in the dungeon, silly. Still smiling, the princess takes another step towards you. Would that you would cringe away from her, but you cannot. You are completely powerless. The princess reaches out and places a hand upon your cheek. Her skin is very white, and though her touch is cool, it is less so than the frigid air in the dungeon. Though your body is aching, the princess's touch is gentle, and you find yourself leaning into it subconsciously. You wish that she would keep holding you. You wish that she would keep touching you. You luxuriate in her kindness as best you can. But though the princess's caresses are tender, your circumstances rather undermine them. How can you relax like this? Ah, you're such a good girl, the princess says, in a cajoling sort of voice, as one might address a cat. You've been so lovely to me while we've been together. I really couldn't have asked for a better servant. I feel as though I've been spoiled. Why then, you ask her, is she doing this? Improbable though it sounds, she must be the one who chained you up. There's nobody else in the castle who could have committed such a feat. Everybody else is dead. Why yes, how very astute of you. I was the one who orchestrated all this, naturally. Naturally, she says, as though her betrayal is a matter of course. Naturally. Why, you ask, is this so natural to her? What does she mean to do with you? Oh, only what I've done to all my other servants. I've experience with this sort of thing, so please, don't worry. I'll take good care of you. And by take good care of, she means... Naturally, I'll kill you. There it is again, that word. Which seems grossly inappropriate given all that which has transpired. Naturally. There's nothing natural about this. Do you not think so? The princess examines you, her expression ponderous. It's natural to me, even if isn't natural to other people. This just feels right. Imprisoning your servants in the dungeon and letting them die? Yes, exactly. There's a bit more to it than that, though. Oh, of course there is. I like you, dear one, the princess says in a voice which sounds uncommonly serious. You've been good to me, like I said, and kind. For that I will be eternally appreciative. You've been so good to me, in fact, that simply being with you is not enough. Not anymore. Your company can no longer content me. I'm a greedy, selfish girl, you see. The princess's smile widens into something sinister, her eyes flashing with a fiendish fever that you have never before witnessed. And I don't want to feel you beside me. I want to feel you inside me. Ew. Well, of all the things your charming captive could have said, you did not expect that. Listen, I think she's gonna eat us, but I feel like there are simply other ways we could be inside her that don't involve us dying. You know what I mean? The princess, perhaps noticing your confusion, begins to giggle. A giggle even lighter than meringue and just as airy. Is just as inoffensive. I can see that you do not understand, dear one, but you aren't the only one. My last lady's maid said that too. Wanly the princess sighs, a beleaguered, woe is me sigh, which makes her look even younger than the scant handful of years she truly possesses. And the one before that, and the one before that, and the one before that. I thought that you, at least, might be able to appreciate my point of view, but perhaps not. I don't think it should be too complicated to grasp, but really. Maybe my way of looking at the world is a bit unique. That's what my nurse always used to say, at least. When she still had the breath to speak, of course. You look at the princess, who else is there for you to look at, really, and your eyes fixed to her face. She's still smiling, but there's something sinister about that smile. Or perhaps in your anxious state, you're only imagining that there's something sinister about her smile. It's easy to see things which do not really exist when your surroundings are festooned in shadows. In actuality, however, the princess does not look any different than how she usually does. Neither is she acting any differently to the way she usually acts. She has not changed. It is only your perspective of her that has changed. Tremulously, you ask the princess what she means. A question the princess is only too happy to answer. It's simple, really. Like I said. You were wondering, weren't you, why there weren't any guards or any servants in the castle when you first arrived here? The question had crossed your mind, yes. You were sure that the princess said her minister sent them away, though. Was that a lie? I wasn't being wholly truthful, no. I thought you would be afraid of me if you knew what actually happened, and I didn't want that. I wanted you to stay with me. My ministers didn't send anybody away because I don't have any ministers. I dispatched of them too. Did she now? You suppose you ought not to be surprised, but you still shudder regardless. My ministers weren't very much fun, I'm afraid. They had a lot of ideas about what I should do and what I shouldn't do after my parents died. The princess stares at you, her eyes wide like black holes, empty, yawning abysses. So I killed them. I killed my servants too, though I did a more thorough job with them than I did my ministers. I did not care for my ministers, you see. They were all fusty old men, but I did love my servants. I loved my ladies' maids, and my undermaids, and my scullery maids, and my housekeeper, and my cooks, and my large retinue of retainers. They were like my family. They raised me in my parents' absence, and I adored them. They were so very dear to me that I had no real choice. I had to eat them. Does that follow? Not logically, no. Why, you asked the princess, your voice trembling, would you eat the people that you love? It seems a poor way to repay them for their kindness. Well, why wouldn't you eat the people that you love? I don't think there could be any greater way of showcasing one's gratitude unless you have any better ideas. You weren't expecting the princess to turn the tables on you and quite like this, and dumbfounded you stare at her. You know precious little about love yourself, so it was hard for you to form a convincing rebuttal, but you muster up a few token arguments. You tell the princess that eating people isn't very nice, and neither is it strictly legal. A better way to show your gratitude to your servants would be to increase wages or increased holidays. The princess listens to your arguments, her expression astute, like a student poised to take notes in a very important lecture. Once you're finished, however, her concentration fails her. Her shoulders begin to shake, but it is not with remorse or for what she has done. Instead, she is laughing. Oh, dear one, that's very funny. But why should I care about the law? I'm a princess. One day I'll be the queen. I am the law. That is a good point, but would eating people not turn her subjects against her? What subjects? I'm no fool, you know. No matter how I might act, I know what happens beyond these castles' walls. I know all about the plague. Once I might have had a populace to govern, but they're all gone now. I'm a princess in nothing but name only, a monarch without any subjects. Don't you think that's sad? I know I do. It's so woefully lonely. If she feels lonely, then why has she been systematically slaughtering all of her domestics? It doesn't make a lick of sense. Perhaps not to you. Gently, the princess caresses your cheek. I shouldn't judge you too harshly. As much as I like you, dear one, you are a commoner. Perhaps you can't understand the intricacies of my thoughts. Privately, you doubt that anybody would be able to understand the intricacies of the princess's thought process, largely because it is unreasonable. You do not say that, though. Instead, you ask the only question you can think to ask, with your weary throat which is sore from shouting. Why? Why, you ask? The princess blinks. It's because I don't want you to leave me, of course. Everybody leaves sooner or later, whether they have pledged their allegiance to me or not. That is simply the way of the world. People are fickle and inconstant, even to me, a monarch. That is why I decided to eat my servants. I had no choice, you see. It was the only way to ensure that they would never leave me. When you think about it, they should be grateful that I would demean myself so, to consume their flesh and blood. I am a magnanimous, whatever, you know the word. You see, I treat all my subjects equally. Magnanimous. I love every single one of you. And naturally, I love you too. You've been awfully nice to me. And you're very pretty alongside it. If you were a plain ugly girl, perhaps I would not shower you with affection quite as intense as this. But you've captured my heart. I think you're lovely. So I'll bestow upon you the highest honor I can conceive of. I want your body to mix with mine. Then we can stay together forever and ever. The princess leans in. You can feel her soft, silken hair brushing against your cheeks. Can feel, too, the warmth of her breast as it goes against your skin. It's cold in the dungeon, but the princess's close proximity is, perverse through this might sound, something of a comfort. Her eyes are wide and her lips are so red. Her smile, meanwhile, is so sweet. I've been doing my best to fulfill the role that fate has dictated for me, but really... The princess exhales. Her eyes, which are boring into yours, are like two dark tarns. Finally, you think you can see, in the alarmingly lack of light, the lack of anything, and the princess's gaze some degree of humanity. It gets so lonely here. But this brief flicker of understanding which passes between the pair of you is soon cut short. The princess dips her head. She parts her lips, which are as red as the petals of a carnivorous flower. You feel the princess's breath against your neck. It is warmth in the icy chill of the dungeons, and you shudder from it. For a few moments you think that this overture of the princess's could be romantic in a way, but this too comes to a swift, merciless close. Ouch! The princess's mouth is on your neck. The princess's teeth, sharp as needles, are in your flesh. The princess is draining your blood. She's supping on it in great, greedy gobbets, like a hungry animal, one who cannot truly comprehend the harm it is causing. Even as the princess sups from you, her arms entwined around your waist, you find you cannot hate her. She's far too unworldly. You are sure as your consciousness begins to fade, that the princess was being sincere when she spoke of her love for her past servants. This is simply the way the princess expresses this great love of hers, a love which is so very abundant it borders upon monstrous. It is a love you never thought you would ever experience. This love of the princess eclipses anything you have ever known before. It eclipses sanity. It eclipses reason. It eclipses all notions you might have once had of right or wrong. The princess, as you know full well, does not care about such concepts. You have always possessed a stubborn core nestled beneath your weak-willed exterior, but the princess is even stubborner than you are. In the face of her love, you have met your match. The princess draws back. Desperately, you gasp for air, but she does not give you any quarter. As before, she dips her head. Her red lips redder still with your blood, and then splits apart her jaw. Her teeth, which are impossibly inhumanly sharp, glint wickedly like knives. Then she tears out your throat. The front of your nightgown was white once. Now it is red. There's so much blood you can smell it when you inhale, sharper than metal. It is so potent that you can taste it on your tongue. You try to inhale, but this task proves to be beyond you, with what twin perforations have ruptured your skin. You tempted breaths, which, when they escape your lips, sound like sad, sorry wheezes. Your whole body, meanwhile, feels as though it is on fire. You make for quite the sorry sight indeed. But you'll forgive me if my sympathy is limited. You did bring this upon yourself, you know. You reap what you sow. And in your case, you made a series of bad decisions which led to your untimely demise. Now, what do you want to do? Will you accept this fate of yours and rest in peace? Or will you try to fight against it? We gotta fight, man. Fight against your fate. That is a good answer. I must admit, I like it. It's impressive how very defiant you can be, even in a situation as discomforting as this. Now, try not to cry. Keep your chin up. This is but a minor setback in your story. Like all fair maidens, you are deserving of your own happy ending. You need only the strength to try and seek it out. Why don't we give this another go? Just try not to ensnare the hearts of any more monarchs, particularly those with unusual appetites. You're destined for far higher purposes than being an entree, and there are vastly more enjoyable ways to be eaten in this world. Yeah, okay. Your fate is once again in your hands. Now I wonder, which path will you take? Well, I mean, there's only one left, but I think we'll have to leave it for next time. How do I save? Oh yeah, I think I have to click on it first. Okay. Cool. So that's all for this one. You see, I knew that there was cannibalism involved in this story. I thought it would be from the gravedigger, but apparently it's the princess. But my spidey senses were tingling. I knew it was gonna happen somewhere. It seems like, I'm surprised that all of her servants didn't die from the plague, though, but... Because, like, the servants are all peasants, right? So you'd assume... Although I guess they were sleeping in the castle, so I guess... I don't know. Well, they'd still have to go to, like, town to buy supplies, right? Maybe she ate them before the plague happened? I don't know. We still have to figure out where this plague came from. I'm thinking it probably had something to do with the shore, whatever lies for us there. Since they all seem to intertwine a little bit, I feel like the shore has to have the cause of all this. But that's all for this time, so let me know what you think of the game down in the comments below, and I will see you in the next one. This is Casper Kuma, over and out.